So welcome to this lecture on stochastic and neural models for speech recognition. This is the 9th lecture, and in the last lecture we have seen on isolated word recognition. So now it's a bit one step ahead, that is the continuous speech recognition. He will talk formally on how to include grammar and a bit more advanced decoding topics. We have seen simple Viterbi decoding. This will be a bit more on that, okay, like with beam search and all this thing. It's a continuation of that. And later he will also talk about decoding graphs and all these things. And in the next lecture we'll see in much more detail that each and every component, even how an HMM, lexic language model and context dependency, everything can be included as a finite state transducers. Even in this lecture there are some element of that. And to introduce the speaker, he's our super senior. So I think he was the first PhD student who worked on ASR. Is it right? In IAC.
Maybe before me somebody would have done.
Ah.
I don't know. Maybe in electrical somebody was there. I don't know. Ramakrishna. No, under TVS I am the first PhD. Yeah.
Here I think.
No, I don't know what they have done. I remember reading some papers. Some basic.
Maybe BS at home. Those people were there, but they worked on speech coding.
No, somebody did in phonetic recognition, phone
Okay.
recognition, and all they have done. I remember reading some papers. I forgot the names.
Okay. So he completed his PhD at 97.
Yeah.
Right? So that was the time when we were born. Then he joined HP Labs. Philips, and he worked there for 2 years, and then he moved to HP Labs. They have changed the names of the company, but he remained there.
Yeah,
And recently, 2 years back, he shifted to DXC Labs. There he is the senior data scientist.
Analytics.
Analytics. So data analyst. Okay. So I'll give to the speaker.
Okay.
Thank you. Sir.
Thank you. So when I was doing my PhD, your professor was a postdoc or something here, correct? He used to come to my room to meet my roommate. He was a friend of my roommate. That's how I know him. Actually, we started friendship that way. Okay. So let me start off. So I have titled this as connected word recognition algorithms. Do you know what is the difference between connected word recognition and continuous speech recognition? Let us keep it aside if you don't know. Just let us go with connected. What is connected now, and we'll go ahead. Continuous will be next. I think next lecture, Madhav Raj or somebody will give. So to start off, just to make things like comfortable, I just started with a speech signal, how the feature extraction happens. We normally take a frame of a 20 to 30 milliseconds and do some MFCC coefficient extraction or neural features or whatever. Now you basically convert that entire thing into a feature vector. I have put 3-dimensional vector. We use 39-dimensional, or it could be much more. So basically with overlapped shift we keep on creating vectors. This is what the way speech is represented, speech vector feature vector sequence. So I just wanted to, I normally think physically a lot, not in math. Entire course has been mathematics, and I'm sure you have seen all the parameter estimation techniques in much detail. I'm very happy to see all the things covered in the slides. So I didn't see the videos yet. So now I thought I'll go a little bit into some physical feel of the whole signal. So if you see, basically a feature vector sequence is what we are taking as a pattern in speech, whether speaker identification, whichever. So if I take a sequence like that, and if I see in a feature space, I am showing in 3-dimensional, imagine in 39-dimensional space, there is some sequence like that. This is the whole pattern for you which you want to learn. And remember, and next time a new pattern comes which is similar to that, you should say it's same, correct? So in that each dot is a feature frame vector, correct? Now I got this entire thing. Let us say some other second occurrence comes. It won't occur in the same place. It is going to have a lot of variability, but dynamics will be similar. That's what you are trying to capture. Now many examples. They all are for the same word or same pattern. Now I just wanted to quickly say this was what the HMM is supposed to capture, correct? Now you have a lot of variability in the initial portions. How do I point the light? The first one? This one? Okay. So the entire thing belongs to one acoustic event, then second event, but the sequence with which it occurs, that is actually fixed for each word. That's what we want to restrict. So the second word, it has some other sequence, but the overlap of the lot of acoustic events are there. So phonetic commonality is there, correct? So this third word. Now if I put all three together, it looks too confusing. And anyone will say in pattern recognition, I can't separate this and solve this. In normal static pattern recognition, if there is overlap of classes, you can't classify. But in sequential patterns, there is a sequence in which it is supposed to be different. Each sequence is different for each word. That makes it easy for us. Now how do I learn that? Through a mathematical, I'll say, concept or model. So that's where the HMM came into picture, where we take the initial portions of that particular pattern. It could be speech, it could be handwriting, it could be anything which is a sequential pattern. Variability of that are captured through some GMMs. Yes, I think covered GMM and multivariate Gaussians. And you let us say that's a GMM which I have put on top of that with the covariance matrix. Now it's actually mixture of two Gaussians I have put there. That is getting captured as a static pattern with a lot of variability. The next in sequence is captured by one multivariate Gaussian. Next GMM of three modes. Like that I have sequential Gaussian models which are now restricted to follow this sequence through HMM. So basically HMM, if the minute HMM you put the what you call boxing, it forces you to decode or find the likelihood in that sequence only. It won't allow you to find the likelihood in the other sequence for the given vector. That's the main restriction or power, I'll say, which you are trying to capture or use it. So this is for HMM word 1 and word 2, then similarly word 3. So and now this kind of thing is happening in the feature space. So it is going to give you, each of these HMM will have a power where they give high likelihood for anything which comes through their sequence, which follow the sequence which they are meant for. That's all. So they remember their own pattern. It's a generative model, correct? Okay. Now you already have seen this. All of you, I think, you have given a sequence of feature vectors, and one HMM is given to you. You want to find out how likely that sequence came from that HMM. This is a likelihood calculation, which he has covered, I saw in the slides. Second one, same thing, you have given again the same sequence, observation sequence and HMM. You want to know which states in that HMM could have emitted this observation sequence. That we also he covered through Viterbi algorithm. I'll just go deeper into Viterbi algorithm once again just to make sure, because that is Viterbi is the bread and butter for entire speech recognition. That the same thing is used in different ways. That's it. So the third one is the typical training estimation problem, where you have sequence and you want to estimate the parameters of HMM. So once you have these three problems solved, you can start doing the isolated word recognition, where you have HMMs for all the words, and you get a test speech, you extract the features of that, then you supply the features to each of the HMM, find the likelihood of that observation sequence from each of the HMM. That could be done using the first problem, which was the forward or backward algorithm together, or Viterbi also. Through Viterbi also you can approximate this likelihood of a observation sequence given HMM using the best path probability. So both of these can be used for speech recognition, isolated word recognition. Now I'll just quickly go through the Viterbi, which is uncovering the maximum likelihood state sequence given a HMM, which is defined by these parameters A, B. You know this, I'm sure it's a standard terminology. And then you have got this observation. Okay, it has jumped a lot here. Okay, no problem. Okay, so you want to find the state sequence corresponding to the observation vector sequence given the HMM. Let us take one specific state sequence. This is, let us say, one state sequence for the given duration. Now for that state sequence, I am telling that has emitted this observation sequence. It's my hypothesis. If that is the case, what is the likelihood of that? What is the probability of that? You have to be in the first state in this time, and emit this. Then you have to move to the second state and emit this. Then like that. So you know HMM parameters, which is the initial state occupancy, then observation probability from that state emitting the first observation, then transition, again next observation. So you keep just multiply this and you get the joint probability of the given state sequence and the given observation sequence for the given HMM. Now this can be found for every possible state sequence. Among that I can find the best, or I can add up. If I add up, I will get the total likelihood of the observation from the HMM. If I find the if I maximize, that's what I am doing. I am trying to maximize this entire thing here and find the state sequence which corresponded to the maximum likelihood. That gives me the best state sequence for that observation, and that the likelihood of that also I am keeping track here in this P star O lambda. This is the likelihood of the observation coming from the best state sequence for the given HMM. So this is what we have to use a lot in speech recognition to do any continuous speech recognition or anything. Okay, so I will go to the, it's not moving. Oops, what happened? I think I clicked this one, no? Okay, good. Just advance it once. I am not able to, okay, fine. So basically, if you take the HMM and put it in the y-axis and observations in the x-axis, these are the state sequences of the trellis possible. At the first time instant, I could be in any of the state. Because of the pi restriction and left right, most likely be in the first state only. But in general, if it is ergodic HMM, I could have entered any state at the time instant 1, and then I could have gone to any state. But here when we set the specific state sequence Q1 to this thing, that is this example. So and just I am trying to find the likelihood of this state sequence and the observation given this HMM. That was what is this. Okay. 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 This Viterbi, I am sure each of you know, but I am quickly again summarizing. The goal again is the same thing, but in a fast way. Previously I tried to enumerate all the state sequences and find the joint likelihood. Here I do in a step-by-step way, in a time synchronous way. I have got observation in HMM and I have to find the state sequence. I will define a variable called delta Ti. This is the probability of the best path ending in state I at time t, accounting for the whole observations and the states sequence which is the best till that point given the HMM. So this is one thing which you have to, I think you have to digest this variable a lot for this entire lecture. So this is the best paths probability, and with a condition that it's jointly conditioned that it's ending in state I at time t. So if it is state I at time 1, it will be only one option, correct? Pi entering the state and emitting that symbol. And these are some back pointers. I will not talk much about this back tracing and all in this lecture. I'm sure you will figure out when you are implementing. It's not a big difficulty. Just you have to remember which index is there and go on doing every time. So in the recursion now, if I put the, see this is HMM, and let us take one, this is a discrete HMM with ABCD symbols. Let us say this is the symbol sequence given to you, and these are the states, and let us say I'll arrange the symbol sequence here in the x-axis, and each state here. I want to figure out which state sequence could have emitted this ACBB. Initially, I'll, okay, again it's not moving. Okay. So the delta 1 which I said here is nothing but initially occupying that state and then emitting the symbol A from this. That will be the delta here. And delta 2 similarly separately I can do for pi 2 versus this thing, and then delta 3 there. Now for the second time onwards, the recursion, how it works is, you don't have to do like previous thing. You just multiply these deltas with the transitions to come to this particular this state here in the second time instant, and see which of the total probability was maximum. This multiplied with this transition, this one of them is the best. So that's what we want to use, and then multiply the probability of the symbol coming from this state here. So this and maximum of all these three things here. So this is how I find the next, and same thing I can repeat for the other state also at the same time instant. Again for the third state, This process repeats again using these delta 2's now instead of 1's. I can just again find delta 3's and delta 4 until delta capital T. So that's how I'm finding. Every time it's giving me the best probability for that time instant to reach that state. So that is this delta T, and now delta capital T will be the last time instance, same probability. Now that if I maximize, I'll get now the probability of only the joint probability of the state sequence till the end and the observations, without any restriction on now where to end, which state to end in the last time. So this is one indicative probability of the observation also. Okay, so having understood this, let us just go to now our, again I don't know why it doesn't move. Okay, I think it was jumping. Okay, so now actual topic of today's talk, connected word recognition algorithms using HMMs. That's the goal. So you are given a word sequence, speech signal of the given word sequence W1, W2, W3, and its feature vector sequence is also given to you, and you are given a set of word HMMs. How did they get trained? I am not talking. I think he has covered before for isolated words. For connected words, how to train, there is a slight different technique. I think he touched upon segmental k-means. That don't worry about that. Somehow you say that word HMMs are already with you, and test a, now your main goal is to find the concatenation of these HMMs, connection of these HMMs together as a big sentence HMM, and then try to match the given full signal. That's the reason the word connected word recognition came here. You are going to connect the HMMs of words and make a big sentence HMM and directly match and see, and you try many connections like that, and one of them will give high likelihood. That's what is the goal. So to find which grammatically allowed concatenation of word HMMs gives the best match to the given test signal. That's the goal. Okay, so I will now tell you how to do that. Okay, sorry, this came in wrong order. So that was a signal and its framing and then vectors. Okay, let us go to, these were the HMMs. I don't know why the order got changed. This thing doesn't, okay, again, okay, now the first algorithm, which was the more exhaustive approach. How many of you know this algorithm? 2-pass algorithm. If you don't know, it's nothing wrong in that. It's anyone who will try to solve in an exhaustive way will think this algorithm first, and in no time you will come to the next algorithm which is much efficient. But this is the first thing which they teach when they teach connected word recognition. That's the reason I thought I'll be complete and take this. This in the Rabinus textbook also it will be covered in detail. So the idea is you have given a speech signal and you have made into frames. Let us take, and these are the feature vectors corresponding to each of the window. Let us take some beginning frame. Some B is the beginning frame, it need not be first one, I am just telling the idea, and take some other ending frame, and I only extract the observation sequence corresponding to these frames. So that is the O2 to O9. You understand, it's a sub observation sequence I have taken. I know from where to where I took, and I have the HMMs of all the words. I'll just find the likelihood of that observation sequence from each of the HMM, that to Viterbi observation, Viterbi likelihood, not the complete probability. It is just the best paths probability. So what is this? I'll remember it as P star 29. Okay, so basically P star 29. The minute I say it is nothing but the, I'll say even log likelihood. I just told some S star. It's okay in the terminology. So basically, I'm finding the log likelihood of the best path from the given beginning to given end observation sequence for the given HMM. This I'll remember. This is my building block in the entire this algorithm. I'll be doing this now. You will see how many times. And the log, I'm sure why the log is there in Viterbi. Normally in Viterbi or any HMMs you have probabilities which are multiplied. Too many multiplication of probabilities will become too small. So to take care of that, there are many techniques, scaling and logarithmic. In Viterbi it's simple, just log will be addition. In forward backward, when you apply log, there is a deep calculation. You need to know a few formula of log, and that will be helpful there. So if you want to implement a forward backward algorithm to and not have this under flow issues, either if you do scaling or some clever way of using log. But in Viterbi it's simple, you can just add up log addition. So here 2-pass algorithm, oh my god, it actually animation suddenly came up. So I have this top one which is speech and frames. I have, okay, so for the B and E, for the given HMM, what I will do is for the range of all the beginning frames from first one to T, and correspondingly for the range of all ending frames, actually I have put B here, it should be E here, all range of ending frames, but the B will be obvious, the E will be higher than B, that condition you have to ensure. You will find the log likelihood score for the best path from the given HMM. This will repeat for all the HMMs. So that is this. And then you will maximize for every given combination of B and E across all the words. For let us say from this point to this point, one of the words score I got, that is S star B E lambda I. So across all the HMMs I am going to maximize here, and just remember only the best score between these two. And how do I remember the word which gave the best? I will use some other tracker, best word index. So this is what I am doing. So I am now, if you see this entire thing I repeated for every combination. There are so many combinations I do that. Any from this point to this point I would have tried all the words and best word I remember. So like that I do that. And this is the first pass in the 2-pass algorithm. We have best log probability value and the word index between all pairs of frames, beginning and ending frames. Whenever slide change happens, okay, it jumped a lot again. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to put one line at a time, but it's suddenly showing everything in one shot. Okay. So anyway, now you got the array of this beginning to end likelihood scores for every combination, every beginning to every end, for every best word only you remembered that. We try to do a second pass using this array, which tries to stitch together, ensuring that from the first frame to last frame, everything without any gaps are covered. I want to stitch together the best combination of these scores, SBE. Every time this is ensuring SBE is for the full word, correct? So I have to just concatenate. So that is the second pass, and this is achieved using dynamic programming. So now how does it happen? And we have to introduce one more thing called SLE here. In the frame sequence you had E, just take one ending frame E. Now we define a log likelihood of the best path ending in that frame using a concatenated sequence of all the L words as this. This is nothing but the best likelihood to end in the frame E using the many concatenations. L words I have added. This is a new term, correct? So that is this L words. This particular thing now is achieved using the previous array and the L-1 score. Like I have concatenation of 5 words whose best score I want to find. I can use the 4 concatenation best score ending at some point B. For the next point onwards, till this point I will try every combination. I have, so if you see this the B, whatever this B here, that I will vary from beginning to end, but I will not try until 1. Based on the number of words it will be higher practically. Basically you are ensuring now, if suppose 5 words you are trying, you will only take 4 word combinations which are smaller than that and try the last word, and then see the which combination is the highest or the best probable. So this you will keep on doing until number of levels what you expect. Suppose somehow there are other methods of figuring out how many words are there in the given signal. Let us say L max could be in the given, it's a 2 second signal. We expect some 10 words in that max. So only 10 or 12 you will try these kind of things, and you will go to the last frame and find this, and then you now maximize across number of words. I could have 3 words, I could have 5 words in the given sentence, but I reached already the end frame. So that one of them will be high. That particular tells me only that many words are there, and then I can backtrace and get this. So again we use all the backtrackers like before. So this is the 2-pass algorithm. Any discussion or any doubts? Is it easy to understand? It was a basic thing people tried before. Too exhaustive, too many things you are doing. Unnecessarily you are trying from every beginning to every end. Sometimes there are 5 words, you are only trying to fit 1 word for the whole beginning to end. So people do some other way of reduction of the duration which they try to fit. But this is a technique which people have tried before. Now how to make it efficient? The next one. You are trying too many combinations to make that array, first point. That's first issue. Too many. You are trying every beginning to every end. I have maybe some 500 frames in a sentence. From 1 to 500, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to like that, and 2 to 1, 2 to 3, 2 to 4, like that. Every combination you are trying unnecessarily, that one. Second thing, of course, this also. This also is exhaustive. Too much. It's not necessary. Some other pragmatics will tell you that that won't occur. That long chain of words won't occur. That. So here we didn't even talk about grammar yet. We are just trying all combinations, correct? So it's easy to now try grammatically these sequences. That's one simple thing. You can do the search through following grammar. That you can allow. I don't want to try some combinations. Let us say I have 4 words. I am trying the 5th word. These 2 are not allowed sequence. Let us say you can restrict using some other table of grammar file. You can maintain a bigram or just a word pair grammar or some other trigram, and then every time you try, you ensure that it is there, and you can even incorporate that probability. That I have not covered here, but it's straightforward to do. It will come in the next other algorithm. I thought I will do that. Yeah, actually it is taking too much time to come here. Oops, where did I come? Okay, sorry, I jumped to next slide. Okay, yeah, you're asking. Yeah, sure. Sorry. Correct. So whenever you are trying this combination here, see B to E, you know already some L words occurred, correct? And you are trying a next word. You know this word identity from this B. Is that combination allowed or not? You can add one more score. If that is not allowed, you will make it negative or something. And allowed words will have higher probability based on their probability. You can do that here. Okay. So level building, this is one of the important contribution done by Rabiner's team in IT&T Bell Labs. It was actually taking the limelight for at least 10 years. I'll say from 75 to 85 or something. Lot of papers, lot of PhDs in various areas have come using only this algorithm. Even handwriting, you will see, I'll show an example in the end. So people use level building a lot. So this is little efficient. Again, better things are there. Okay. Anyway, so you have a speech signal framed, and I have vectors, feature vectors of that. I start with the first frame and try, let us say, since I am trying 3-word HMM, 3-state HMMs, third frame, minimal, I can't be doing exiting the HMM within 2 frames if I have this kind of HMM, straight left, right. So 3. I'll take the first one to the third frame, that sequence, and try the find the log likelihood score from the Viterbi of that. And I'm now referring it as, instead of S, I'm putting as P. P113 means I have it's in the first level. I'm starting from the first frame, ending in the third frame with the HMM1. That's the best score, best paths likelihood. Next, I'll go and take the same, I'll continue with the Viterbi. I don't recalculate. See, Viterbi is a frame synchronous thing. You can calculate before and then go to the next one, correct? So I'll try for the same HMM again from the beginning, but one extra frame. I'll end in next extra frame, and I'll calculate the score till that point. That I'll call as P114. Similarly for 5 frames, similarly until T frames. So this is with only one HMM, and I have tried this until some logical limit. If I know this word has this much average length, that much only I will try. I will not go until the end, first thing. Next thing is I will try with the second HMM, same thing. So I will have now with the second HMM, again beginning at the first frame till third and fourth and fifth and sixth until T. And this T need not be same. If suppose that word is bigger word, I may go until a little higher. Understand? So this array which I got, I will do that way. So again with some I HMM for all the words, I will do this. And for now, for each of the ending frame, I will find the best one. From the beginning frame to third ending frame, I will just keep track. That is, I will call that a P1, B3. Which word, I will keep that some other index to maintain which word was the best there. But anyway, that score I will keep. Similarly, from beginning till this third, maybe the second word was the best. That score only I will keep. Like that for the beginning to fifth frame, beginning to T frames. Now, this is the first level computation. Once this is done, the second level starts. It's a level building, keeps on doing for every level. Every level is like one word. And how many levels you do? Till you, if you have a given length of signal, you will roughly come up with an average or maximum number of words expected. That many levels you will try. So, in the second level, I will start with this sequence and build the same thing. I will show you. So, anyway, before getting out, so for the first one, I have just told this. I am just telling I am maximizing that in the column and finding the best. This B here is best. And I will also remember which was the word. And I also remember back pointer, which was the previous word I entered before doing this. This I will not discuss in this class, you can figure out when you are implementing. So the next frame, next level, what happens? I have got now this vector sequence, but my scores are available from P1 B3 to P1 BT for the first level. So first words from the beginning could have ended in any of these. Word has to begin here, it could end here, anywhere, but which word ended, which you don't care, you remember the best ones and you know the identities. So now the second word could start from here or anywhere. So you have this many options. So what you do is assume the first word, second word started there and ended here based on the HMM's length. Now try again the score. This time you start the score by adding this score to the Viterbi in the beginning. And you find the new Viterbi score, which is P26, nothing but started with this and tried the HMM1 at the second level, ending at the sixth frame. Now I can do the same thing for the seventh frame, again the same word. So the first HMM I am trying again. Okay, now the second word, second HMM, starting again with the previous I am starting here, correct? I am starting here and ending in third, ending in fourth, ending in 5, like that. So like that I can try for all the word HMMs which are logically allowed. If you have a grammar, you will not try everything here. While trying itself, you will restrict this thing. So now I get the best of these. What happens is, for this frame ending here, for the second level, what was the best score? Whichever word it could be. So I will have now new set of scores, new array of scores, which are the ending scores of the two word combinations, and it could end in this frame or anywhere. So once this is done, again you will go to the third level. You will keep on doing this level by level. So from beginning here, you will try now 3 words. From here the third word. So like that you will try many combinations. Here also I just showed you for starting from first ending here, but from here also you will have something. I will start here and I will try many more. So every time I will only maximize the best ending score for that level, for that time frame. So you can go on doing this till for every time instant. This whatever I showed is this here. For the last time instant, you would have got for some level, third and fourth, fifth and 10th level, you would have got some scores. Now this was the best score for that level, but for the same time frame, for some L-1 also I could have got some other score. So I will be maximizing over multiple word possibilities. These are multiple levels. either 2 words ending in the last frame, or 3 words, or 4 words, or 10 words ending. Which one was the best, which had the highest likelihood? That will tell me the best score and also number of words. This is the final thing, which final score, which gives you now also the word combination based on back pointers you maintain. So I just thought I'll put this image from Rabina's textbook quickly to tell how it works. See, these are the time frames. These are speech signal. You started with the first frame, and until here you tried the, let us say, every word, and in that, let us say, a word was the best. So from here to here, when you tried all the words here, a was the best. You remember that a here after. Then for the next frame also a was better, a word. Third, b was better. From here to here, b was better. And for the fourth, so now these are all the first level word best scores. Starting this as a, next level match will start from here, and you will try new words here, all words again here. So if you started here, a, b was better. If you started here also, b was better. It could have ended here also. So like that, starting at every of this time frame, next words, from here to here b was better, from here to here b was better. So if you see, this may be little confusing to people. I have seen people getting confused with this. Everything you have to put it to this time frame only. You are trying first combinations, then from here you are trying second combinations here, then third combination there. So like that you try, and finally you will get a best sequence. Same trellis diagram I am again putting here in the HMMs, where you have states of each of the HMM, and there are time frames, and you calculate this way. The trellis is built this way. Yeah. Okay. So I saw you were asking me to put grammar, so I just picked up your slides. So you heard Madhav Raj talking about grammar, correct? And grammar is telling how whatever the words you got, are they expected or not. So he was talking about 1 gram model, which gives the likelihood of 1 word for a given sentence. Using 1 gram models, I'll find a score. This is a sentence using 1 words at a time. I'll find this. So this was one, and then similarly using bigram, where you have likelihoods of given a previous word, what is the likelihood of the next word. This kind of table you have, and also you had unigram. Together using this, you will find the likelihood of the whole sentence. So this grammar can be represented in 2 ways. One is statistically like this, where you have 1 gram, 2 gram, 3 gram, etc., or finite state network. So here I'll just take a bigram case and try to build the next algorithm using bigram table. So okay, again jump it in one shot. I wanted to introduce one line at a time. So 1 pass algorithm, this is one of the most prevalent algorithm even today. People use this in, they have clever techniques of achieving this in a suboptimal way, in a faster way. But essentially this is the algorithm, which is nothing but Viterbi algorithm again. Okay, so now again I'll repeat the problem. You want to find the best concatenation of HMMs. Let us say these are the best concatenation, which correspond to a given test observation sequence. This is what you want, and now you again define the same delta, which is very similar to Viterbi's delta ti given lambda. What is the meaning of that is the probability of reaching the state I of this HMM at the time instant t in the best way, where you could have come from multiple HMMs. You could have, until then you could have come from multiple concatenation of HMMs. So here the probability of the best path being in state, ending in state I of given HM lambda at the time t, and you have given all the word HMMs, and which this entire the best path could have come from concatenation of multiple HMMs, following again grammar model. So this text may be little confusing. Maybe I have not written properly, but it's simple. How to do that you will see in the algorithm. See, now you remember in Viterbi, we actually initialized this delta 1 i's in the same way. Now we are doing this for every HMM. I have the observation sequence like that. Let us say I'll stack each HMM, and for each HMM I'll calculate now for the first every state this delta t. This is the initialization, and I'll do this for all states and all HMMs. The main thing, okay, this thing I don't know why it is not coming properly here. Okay, it's because of the Google, I think. It's okay. That's the essential step here actually. Okay, maybe we can escape and keep it like that. Don't be in slideshow. Maybe reduce a bit. I could have used my laptop, it would have been easy. Okay, just drag it and pull it up. Oops. Not allowing. Can you just, not getting it. See, we had this PPT in my laptop and we copied, probably that has caused this. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll try to, don't worry, at least I can see half of that, so I'll write on the board probably. Yeah. So anyway, before coming to that step, so we had this initialization probabilities, correct? So the iteration, you remember, correct? You were trying to go to the next state, and in a strict left-right HMM, you have only two possibilities. Either I'll be in the same state next time, or go to the next state. So only two possibilities. So I'm just showing you this delta t. See, I got delta 1. I want to do delta 2, delta 3. I'll just use the previous delta, and I could be in the previous state. I could have moved from previous state to next state, or I could have been in this in the previous time. I could have been in the current state itself, and I am again in the same state. So there are only two possibilities. I got delta. I want to find delta t plus 1 I. I can do with using delta t's, previous time instant deltas, and previously I could have been in the previous state, or I could have been in the same state. So this is nothing but simple normal Viterbi's likelihood trellis expansion multiplied by the observation probability. This is normal case when you are inside a HMM already and you want to go inside the HMM still. You don't want to go out of the HMM. This case is simple. The bottom case is the more important thing here. Whenever you are entering a HMM, when t is when the state is 1, that I is 1, you have got that. I can write it down, maybe it's not easy. So what is written here is delta t lambda of I for I is equal to 1. So this is equal to 1, maximum of what was that? I could have been in the same state, this delta t plus 1, I think. I could have been in the same first state already before from the same HMM 1. What was that? Sorry. Say A11 lambda, or this is next part is more important for you. I could have come from the last state of the XHMM in the time, same previous time. Okay, this is the last state. So in the previous time instant, the tth time instant, I am from the last state of any other HMM multiplied by the bigram probability of coming from that HMM to the next word. So we are trying for lambda, correct? This lambda could be some x here, and of course multiplied by the, this is the comma here, multiplied by the observation probability. So that's what it is here. So basically you are trying to okay, maybe in the next trellis I have better image here. What is happening is, oops, yeah. So let us take this is the total observation sequence given to you, and each of the words are possible anywhere. Now you are trying to find the Viterbi score. If you want to just do Viterbi for only one word, your trellis only will be like this, correct? Same thing for the observation. If it's only one word, you will have one more trellis which has nothing to do with these two. They are separate. I can build a trellis for this, correct, at every point. Now the interesting thing is, whenever I am trying when t is equal to 1 and I am entering the first state of this HMM at this point of time, what could have happened before this? I am entering this HMM's first state, this HMM's first state at this time. Previous time I could have been where? Any other HMM's last state, correct? That's all. So here I am entering here, I could have been the last states of some other HMMs. So I will be trying to now find the every possible combination, if it is allowed or not through bigram, and maximize at that point. So that's what I am doing. So this is the advantage of this entire algorithm is it is frame synchronous. You don't have multiple for loops, just one loop. You first go for each time you calculate for all the HMMs every state, then next time instant for every HMMs every state's likelihood you will find. Keep on doing. At any point of time you will also have the first states of each HMM. Only when you are calculating first states, you will go to the previous time instance scores of all the other HMM's last states and multiply with bigram, and then see which is the best. That's what you do. That's it. So I leave it as an exercise for some people who want to do how to incorporate trigram. This is bigram. How to incorporate bigram in the decoding. That's what is happening here. Correct? I'm just using bigram. How to do trigram in the forward search. People do trigram also as a rescoring. That's a common practice, but that's a one good thing to try out. Anyway, so again I'm putting back this slide. If anything is left out, any doubts here? This is one of the algorithm to understand.
Why can't we incorporate this language model with the pi I? Shouldn't it be related? Because like some things cannot just appear in the beginning like that.
Correct. So first word, so you will have that. So yeah, so when I am trying the first word, okay, you want to multiply the first word probabilities initially. So when you did the first level, okay, yeah, so yeah, you can do that. So that's what it happens actually, really speaking, when you make a network and do search, initial words will happen. But using bigram also, whenever you do the first word scoring, yeah, I missed it, you could have first word occurrence. Pi I is restricting HMM. See, I showed you the feature space and I told you the power of entire HMM is restricting that, correct? That pi is giving me the power of where you can enter the HMM. Nothing to do with grammar. Pi is always about acoustic model. Keeping it aside is giving you power. See, combining these two will actually reduce your power. You want to have more degrees of freedom. So pi is restricted to acoustic model and grammar is restricted to the words. Now I was thinking when you said pi should have grammar, I was thinking mainly you want to restrict the initial words. If that is your goal, yeah, we can, while evaluating, instead of only not at the connections, even whenever it is t is equal to the first word I am trying, I'll also multiply with is the first word allowed or not. Some words are not allowed in the beginning, correct? So they'll have less probability. Anyway, so grammar can also be represented like a finite state network, where you saw this is picked up from Rabiner's textbook. So you see here, this want can occur here also, but this quote may not occur here. So there is a lot of restriction. This is not like a bigram. Bigram is little having more perplexity. Language perplexity is little higher in bigram. Trigram has even lesser. Unigram has much higher. So the confusion is too high in unigram, and it gets reduced. Here it is even lesser. You have a lot of advantage, and there are many applications which run with this. So to implement this, we can do something like this. Just convert that network like a HMM network, where whenever I connect, this is a grammar node, and there are variations of the same one-pass algorithm, where you are just playing with data structures and the approach, but everything is same. So they call that as one pass or token passing. All are similar. Everything is frame synchronous or one pass algorithm. How to handle these word connections, where you have a network kind of a grammar, or So this actually token passing is one more thing which I recommend people to study. It is nothing but one pass algorithm, but it has a clever way of dealing things. The same thing is used in HTK, entire token passing. So and frame synchronous network search algorithm by Rabiner, again it's one pass algorithm. So many people have invented this one pass algorithm at the same time. Many people working in research, various different countries, at least 3 to 4 independent inventions have happened of this algorithm. So so basically, if you guys did not follow, somebody who is not working in speech, I thought I'll just show you what we are trying. We are having a speech signal, and we are telling there are 3 or 4 words in that. Which word, where the word starts, where the word ends, we don't know. We are fixing a template and trying to match the which template works well. So I have the templates which are for each word. I have template. I'll concatenate them roughly like this and say the sentence I am trying for this. So I'll assume this is starting here, and ending here, and start and ending. Then try to find the score. I remember that score. Now I'll change some other ending points for the same sentence. I'll keep on trying every possible starting and ending frames for this particular word sequence, and one of the combination, oops, I don't know, it's going slow. So one of the combination will give higher likelihood. That I'll remember for this combination. I'll remember every time, yeah, winner, maybe this is the winner for this sequence of HMMs. I'll repeat this now by changing the HMMs. Okay, so like that I can go on repeating for all allowed word combinations using grammar and get the scores. One of them will be the winner. That's what happened in all these 3 algorithms until now. Okay, now beam search. See, this is like sorry, what did you say?
The starting and ending of each word.
Ah.
Is there not a particular algorithm to find that each?
It's happening in this automatically. See, when I do this algorithm, I'm trying. I could have spoken a word starting at any point. Correct? I should allow that. So with how less number of computations I tried that. That's the cleverness of this algorithm. So using grammar, I'm trying. That's all. In the one pass, I'm not trying unnecessarily at that frame everything. So I'll be trying every starting to every ending, all logically allowed words there. I'll try to match and see which was the best score. Is that the question? Or?
The last line of the name was that's what he told.
The last set of image I just showed, because somebody who is not working in this, they don't care so detailed. Somebody who is working already, they know what I am talking. So I just thought I'll give a physical feel of it. And there are now, okay, now people want to see recognition happening as I speak, and number of words are millions, correct, in the dictionary. And these, whatever you saw, the number of words are, let us say, some 2 lakhs, and number of HMMs to make each word will be some 5-6 based on number of phonemes. They normally concatenate phonemes. The number of states at a given time can go to millions actually now. At every time instant, I have million of the states to try, and again next. If I start doing that, the computation will become too much. So beam search is one technique where the same one pass algorithm, what we do is we will not unnecessarily try every other combination. I have got full array of delta TIs at that time. From that, I'll only take top 10% or top 5% of the scores, or I'll take the top score and put a small threshold around that, plus threshold and minus threshold, sorry. And only those paths I'll now continue. You understand? All others are pruned off now. I'll not try any more combinations with the other deltas. That is nothing but beam search. So this is, people use it even in real-time systems today also, this technique. So for large vocabulary, experimentally they have proved that 5 to 10% of the beam width, if you maintain, you will not miss the top score most of the time. That is some papers I gave a reference also. And at every instant of time, you are basically doing by finding a threshold, or just do the sorting and take top 100 or top 200. I have some million, I am only keeping some top 20, top 200, let us say. Instead of million, I am doing top 200. Now the next level only will take from these 200 to go to million, again top 200 to million. Every time only 200 I will calculate. So it will be very, very fast. And they saw almost no drop in the accuracy if you put 10% or like that. So people have tried the 60,000 vocabulary and all. I remember I saw on paper. So, but now I think even much more. Now, having said all this, the last point is also important. Instead of just doing one best path, I can do n best path. What is the n best? What the second best means? Second best obviously has a second likelihood, normal sense. But in speech recognition, it's not just the second likelihood. It should have some word different. At least one word should be different than the first word. Same word sequence with a smaller score happens definitely if you end in a different frame. So that's not the second best. Second best always should differ by one word as a condition, and you will maintain a second best path also for every node. Using second best paths at every node, you can finally synthesize the second best for the whole sequence. So that once you get the n best, now how do you pick up the best in there? There you can apply trigram also. That is called rescoring techniques, what we are talking here. In the third pass, you got a already outputs a trellis of word sequences, a lattice of word sequences you got. From that you again stitch a single thing using higher knowledge. Higher knowledge could be not just trigram, it could be any pragmatics also, like you know which application you are talking, or durations, some durations of the words. You can apply all those stuff here. So now I just wanted to leave here because it should be motivation for the next talk. So these are all traditional techniques. People could not afford this kind of frame search at all. They started looking at any ad hoc methods. So best first search, you know what is best first? How many of you know best first? Or A star search? Just like imagine I am in the top of a hill, I want to go down the best path, but I can't try all the paths and do. I have 3 paths at a given point of time. I am allowed to go and use each of the 3 paths from the top once. I will go to one step down in this part till the end where it goes, and from there I look at the ground from the hill. It looks nearby or not, I will make a guess. Then I will come back, I will go to the second path. From there again I will see how far it looks down. The third path also I will go down and come back. Now this distance and what I feel the target will, I will minimize that. You understand what I am doing? So I have 3 options in the top point. I will take all 3 and estimate the distance to the final destination using some method, ad hoc method in speech especially, and I add up all these and minimize, and then again I will pick the best path now. From there again I will do that way and go. So best first search. So there are plenty of work and people still use this in real time systems. It will also has power of giving partial results as you speak. When you don't complete the sentence, this can give outputs. So this is one thing which is based on stack decoding. Maybe somebody has to give a talk. I didn't prepare this at all. I was thinking I will prepare for this talk, that topic. I couldn't find proper literature, so that's the reason I did not do. So anyway, so basically this entire thing is a tree based approach, and yeah, not much here. So now somebody here works in handwriting, because it's from your lab I am asking. Nobody. Let us take a handwritten some word. It could be Hindi, it could be Telugu, English, anything, and you scanned it. You want to recognize that now. And let us say I tell the vocabulary of words in the dictionary. For each of the character which is going to come, you also have examples of how people write that as a template. Now for the given sequence of characters which is a word, to recognize that also is nothing but now you are trying this connected word recognition. So I'll just show an example. I have, let us say, Hindi lexicon of words in the machine code already. I know for each character how does the thing look. I made maybe templates of each of the character before and kept it. And this is I am going to use same 2-pass algorithm here. What happens is, let us say I want to recognize this word Imli. I will segment this using some image, some techniques, form document image processing, where I know I will not miss segmenting one character. I will not segment this entire word into segment where two characters occur in between two lines. I will always segment at least one character twice or thrice. There are techniques to do that. You do that, and then what happens now? I will try this particular piece to match with the first letters of this dictionary words. That is my first pass. Like you understand, I will show you here example. So I have segmented this way. Now I will try to see the matching. What happens? This matching I will try, and previous. So I am doing full matches of the entire thing with each of these templates in the first pass, and trying to do the total second pass also and see which is matching. So finally I will try all these combinations. One of the this segmentation matches well, and this I will try for every word. Again it's the same 2-pass algorithm which Professor Venu Govindaraj's team from SUNY Buffalo have taken from speech and applied successfully. It works very accurately. I implemented in Hindi and in English also. This works very well for words in handwriting. So this one, see OCR you can do, yeah, OCR ke liye merge character it will work. Yeah. So when it is working for handwriting, you can imagine it goes to yeah. So this is a purely taken from speech community to handwriting, and say handwriting community benefits a lot from speech community. What do you say? Anyway, so I don't know whether I ended early or not. What is the time now? 12 o'clock? 12:20. Oh, good. Any discussion, questions? So A star decoding, next thing I'm sure you are going to cover the LSTMs and everything will come into this course, correct?
After this, I will take final state.
Okay, that is more important. Now it is nothing but a clever way of doing expanding network.
So here, this class, whatever the examples are there, it was connections. A big graph will be there, you will connect on. And each of the large quantities is a response. But there, final state transducer, people how we do recognition nowadays, we implement H1 itself as a transducer. Okay, there is no state, no distribution. Okay, we will have distribution ID for each of the paths. So entry time will cover all that. So that in that we can include the lexicon and pronunciation probability for each of the, and the grammar diagram. Because when it talks about level building, when you were explaining about trigram, I was about to ask how to do this for trigram, because in trigram it's much more
Involved.
but you asked the same thing.
Yeah, I can give some material if you guys want to study. It's a good assignment. See, basically these connections, when I am talking connecting HMM, nobody asks me what do you mean by connecting HMMs. See, these kind of connections are not meaningful, correct? Basically, if you see here, I am just trying for one HMM for this frame. I don't care, and I am doing HMM match for the remaining thing. I add up the score or multiply the score in the probabilities, correct? So the really connection is not necessary in the HMM framework. This transducer, I am sure, basically is allowing you to connect a huge network, not just one HMM. You can make a full network and represent with one transducer element and connect it in the network and expand that and do in the decoding. It could be that element could be a lexical model, or acoustic model, grammar model, anything.
Any connection, I mean, any transition can be a transition in the exam also, or it can be a lexicon, but it will include all the, if you jump, we have to explicitly add a term here for the diagram. But there, it will involve all the lexicon pronunciation probability, as well as the grammar, as well as the transition of the states, all this.
I'll call it as a framework for you to learn. It's so it's easy for you to implement bigger experiments. In speech recognition, India, I'll say, it's very much behind because we don't implement. We just go and do only LPCs and signal processing. We don't build large vocabulary systems. You hear people telling nothing big happening in India because of that. None of them are building big systems. And to build big systems, you need to have all these bricks like the FSTs and everything in place. And without that toolkit, if I start building that, my PhD time will be over. Should be a big team effort, correct? So it's a interdisciplinary work to build the entire framework and then build the system. Then on top of it you contribute. Obviously that contribution will be world class. So otherwise you will be contributing at a small signal. I found some new points of interesting activity, or you will be at that level. You are still signal level because they are small MATLAB experiments. And if you have a team of people who are working in speech recognition, if you collaborate, and that's the best thing to do. And world over, it has succeeded only that way. So if even today, we can create a team and do in a big way. It's not a big issue at all. It's just implementing our own IISc speech toolkit. Kaldi, if you see Kaldi, why can't our people do that? Why can't you take some good computer science guys and 2-3 people from system science and work on a collaborative project? You will come with a beautiful thing in the end. A lot of things. The FSTs for me is nothing but a generalization and a easy tool to make your systems to build a system. Just like our TensorFlow today is making you to build large deep neural network, is again it's a framework for me.
It's a framework where all these elements will be known. Maybe after that is where the acoustic models are. So that will be replaced by DNNs.
And what about feature extraction using neural network? Are you covering?
Feature extraction.
Anyone?
People are they have done speech.
Correct, but what is the state of the art problem method to extract features using neural approaches?
Neural network, there are two ways. So I will cover the
Somebody should cover feature extraction using neural network and also modeling and then language modeling, the full recognition also using neural. You're given a title called neural also, correct? Not just statistical. Huh? Maybe that will be value add, because this is like history. I'm teaching you history because you should not be without knowing history. If you do things again, you'll fall flat actually suddenly, because no foundations will be there. It's important to know these algorithms, and also you should go to the next level of large vocabulary, continuous speech recognition, where you use segmental k-means training for doing phoneme models and then doing the recording. That you are covering that? Segmental k-means is already I saw in your previous slide. That is for, I don't know whether it was for HMM training, individual HMM training, isolated one. Same thing can be applied for connected word models also. I have training sentences for which I know the words. Just I'll end up with HMM models for the words by using segmental. If I know phonetic spellings of each of the word, I can end up with into phonetic HMMs using again segmental k-means. So you are going to do next, yeah.
even that it's a recursive procedure. So sometimes when you train a system, you can't train acoustic model in one shot. It should be refined. Initially
Yeah.
you don't have anything, so you give a best possible. Then you slowly tune the system. Refine that. You at each and every step, what you have to do, you have to remove some of the variabilities that are associated. Sometimes channel variability, and after that, speed. After that, some and then you come up with the so that don't do it. After before DNN, maybe after transmission, then maybe start decoding.
Somebody should take it up. See, every course should have some assignments also, correct? The advantage of giving stack decoding or extra search to somebody else is it's pure computer science kind of thing, correct? They can easily do it. Some few papers. Just add that, I'll say, to make it complete. Yeah, I have built it now. I gave you the speech of Telugu, Tamil, Hindi, and Assamese also I gave you. Assamese I gave, English, of course, Indian English. Entire database I gave you of 6 languages. And we actually built it using Sphinx also, and we got 80-90% accuracy in all those databases. No, we had a full dictionary, some 30, at least tens of thousands of words. It works very well. using the same database, we built systems. Maybe in the same series, you will find the software using Sphinx 2 and Sphinx 3. We built Indian language systems. Okay, so ours is not that, because the database is only some 200 speakers, each speaking 30 minutes. So we didn't have any restriction of the words there, but the unique words we found it to be only in tens of thousands. Yeah. You can actually look at the database. Did you look at the database? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You had labels everything properly already in that. You could convert ISCII to Unicode. It was in Iskia or something. I don't remember what was the.
It was not decodable. Some had Unicode, some were in some other format. So we manually.
You typed it again. Oh my God! How many hours? How many days rather?
No, 5 hours data.
Oh, you took. Yeah. But if somebody can crack that entire decode, how was the format?
What we did was then we collected around 100.
You know, best person to catch. Go to Partha. Go to Partha Pratim Talukdar. He collected that speech for me. He was a student in our lab at that time. The SMS is collected by him. The same format is used for all 6 languages.
So in the Telugu, sorry, in the Tamil data which you have, 5 of them were like
You could.
standards, and that's why it took only 1,000.
Okay. See, this was collected by many students. I had some funds with me, so I took some 16 or 20 interns and three people for each language. I asked them to go to the go around entire India and collect the speech. So their project had six months internship, 3 months for data collection, next 3 months to make the system. So first 3 months, some people had fun and they didn't like it. Some people collecting and all, but. So we bought all these dialogic cards where telephonically somebody can dial in. We had an app where correct. In that CD, correct. So one is mobile phone telephony, one is landline telephony. Both are telephony. Yeah.